12:42 Central African Time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. South Africa is in the grip of powerful criminal networks, according to top cop Lieutenant General Dumisani Khumalo. Testifying before the Madlanga Commission, Khumalo named the Big Five as the country's most influential cartels. The syndicates reportedly operate from Cape Town, as in the Western Cape province of the country, to the nation's borders and beyond. The syndicates are involved in drug smuggling, extortion and rigging lucrative government tenders worth billions. Khumalo says they've infiltrated politics with links to party structures and decision-making corridors. Independent crime analyst Dr. Chris de Kock unpacks the criteria for cartels and syndicates.
A lot of what's made of what is a cartel, what's a syndicate. I would just like to refer to it as organized groups. But the criteria is actually that you have a structure, and that it's a hierarchical structure, and that it's under strict control of the boss, the guy or the person who controls this structure. And then also that there's a division of labor. Certain people do certain things. And you will also have that syndicates are using corruption. They infiltrate politicians. They infiltrate the state, and especially the law enforcement organizations, because otherwise they can't operate freely. On the other hand, you'll find that in the CIT field, the cash in transit field, groups don't comply to this. Research, very good research, have indicated that the CIT gangs or the CIT cartels or syndicates or organized groups, they operate totally differently. There you will find a person who will organize a strike, and he or she will pick people from different specialities, like the drivers, people who can shoot properly, people who can use explosives, and they will create a group or constitute a group to then do the strike, and after that they will just go their separate ways.
De Kock says intelligence-led policing is critical in combating organized crime in South Africa.
The growth of organized crime can largely be contributed to the weakening of the intelligence community, the structures, and that is very much linked to the politicization and fractionalism of those institutions. And then also because the organized criminals and the people who are participating in this seen that there was weakening of many other structures since 2012, around about there. I think like crime intelligence, the state security agency, crime intelligence in general, or intelligence in general, is extremely important to fight organized crime. You can't fight organized crime if you don't have the intelligence, if you don't know who's who and who's talking to who, or who's participating with whom, and how the structures look. And I mean, this is clear in the evidence of General Khumalo.
That was independent crime analyst Dr. Chris de Kock. And to get an update on what is happening at the Madlanga Commission today, we are joined on the line by our reporter who is covering the story, Dimakatso Leshoro. Dimakatso, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Hi, Lulu. Thank you for having me.
Now, take us through today's proceedings.
So just before we break, I think if you recall yesterday, the General Khumalo made reference to WhatsApp text messages that they were found in Vusi Matlala's phone, who's now been arrested. Vusi Matlala, you recall, is now been named as one of a member of that Big Five cartel. So when he was arrested last year, his two phones were confiscated, and from those phones they retrieved text messages that link this one individual called Brown Mokhoti, rather, who is an ANC member and seems to be the facilitator of payments from Matlala to members of the ANC. So just before I came out, General Khumalo, who is the head of crime intelligence, and has been detailing how Mokhoti was soliciting monies from Matlala. He was asking for monies for 8 members of the ANC to go to the January 8th statement. The January 8th statement of the ANC was held in the Western Cape on the 12th of January this year. So you see, he's asking Matlala to pay for flights. I mean, he paid a deposit of 37,000 rand, and he still sent him messages saying you have to pay the balance of 111,000 rand, which he eventually paid. And then he was also asking for money for entertainment, saying if you can just give us 15,000 for the weekend, it will do, so we can buy drinks. And you can see from the chats that Matlala at some point is like, you know what, I don't like how this works. I want a structured, proper arrangement. As we heard yesterday from the general, that this cartel works like a business. So everything they do is proper, and the people that are used to do whatever work, whether it's hijackings, whether it's drug work, whether it's cash, transit heist, they are properly employed with a monthly not payslips, but salaries, like you and I.
So it's like a cooperation with different departments and an executive team, basically.
Yes.
Now, sorry, Dimakatso, just to come in there very quickly. The Brian Mokhoti is the very same Brian who's been on a media drive or media campaign to sort of explain his relationship with Vusi Kat Matlala, as well as the minister, Senzo Mchunu.
Absolutely, he's the one that was named by Lieutenant General Dumisani Khumalo in that media briefing in July, and he's been trying to make himself sound clean, innocent, but from what, and we have to say, these are allegations, Lulu. They still have to be tested, okay? And these people will be afforded an opportunity to come before the commission and rebut these claims or offer their own evidence to disprove the claims, allegations that are being made here today. But you can see from the messages where he's promising Matlala to have him meet with the police's second highest ranking officer, General Shadrack Sibiya, who's been suspended, as well as the police minister. So this is the guy who is sharing sensitive information of the police with Matlala because he wanted him to fund these activities of his party.
Now, Advocate Matthew Chaskelson, he's now appointed Chief Evidence Leader of the Madlanga Commission. He's replacing Advocate Terry Mudau, who unexpectedly stepped down just days into the role. What do you know about this change? Has there been any forthcoming information from the Commission itself?
The Commission has been mum on this. They've said that they're not going to talk about HR issues. They've referred to this as an HR matter, and they've refused to comment. They've just basically said that it's not going to affect the work of the Commission. We know that Advocate Chaskelson has been involved and is a quite senior, experienced counsel, and we saw him leading a witness last week. So he is here today as well, just listening to the testimony. So we don't foresee any delays from the withdrawal of Advocate Mudau. Of course, he hasn't said why he's left, and they've just basically said this is an HR matter and we're not going to talk about that.
Now, what's interesting now is there has been interviews all over with I think it's the previous. Prince Mukotedi, who used to be the NPA head in Gauteng, if I'm not mistaken, a couple of years ago. And he's been saying that Malisela Tefo, the advocate who was part of the advocates in the Senzo Mewa case, needs to be heard, and he needs to be his issues or his rantings, for lack of a better word, need to be taken into account. And now I see that Advocate Tefo is urging the Madlanga Commission to hear his evidence before it wraps up. Has the Commission hinted at all about this?
You're referring to Advocate Lukote Dimche, who led Zuma off the hook, remember, when he was facing the charges in 2009?
Exactly.
So there's been a lot of, even on social media, a lot of advocating for Advocate Tefo to be heard. As you recall, he at some point made claims about the former minister being involved in some sort of drug activity and whatnot. So, but as you know, Lulu, the Commission doesn't really release the names of the witnesses way in advance. I mean, even this one, we only heard about him on Friday, and I think it was a slip on the part of the chairperson who said that he, because usually we just get it like a day before who's going to be, giving testimony because of the security concerns. I might just add that the security around General Khumalo is such that I've never seen here since we started. I mean, we've had private police wearing private clothing inside the venue, like just surrounding him. So you can see the level of concern about the risks of threats around him. So they don't give out that information way ahead. So we wouldn't know at this point if he's going to come or not. And of course, Lulu, here, the Commission wants evidence and not just allegations. Or CSA. Do you know what I mean? Because they have to make findings, and they have to, in some instances, hopefully, refer some people to be prosecuted, and you can't prosecute people based on hearsay or untested allegations.
This is a very interesting time in South Africa, and these commissions just keep, there's a lot happening, because on the other hand, Advocate Chauke of the NPA, there's now an inquiry that has been confirmed and signed off by the president. So a lot is happening at this point in time.
Inquiries left, right, and center. I mean, and you know that was also precipitated by Konazi's press briefing. I mean, that triggered a lot of things, right? We saw things starting to happen because there have been complaints about Advocate Chauke here. Even the boss, the NPA boss, Shamila Batori, had complained about this advocate here who was leading the NPA prosecutions, him dropping charges of some well-known politicians. There have been questions about how those charges were dropped, if he really applied his mind or there was political influence. But we'll find out when that inquiry does get underway. But Lulu, as I think you've said it before, that we have all these inquiries, and the question is what happens at the end? Is anything actually going to be done? We're still waiting to see anything being done by the Zondo, from the findings and recommendations of the Zondo Commission. So
Yeah, I think I have a lot of hope with the Madlanga Commission because this time around, it's literally, apart from the SAPs, it's the prosecutors, it's the judges that have been brought into question. So there's a lot. Something needs to be done, and very quickly.
Well, we hope so, but I mean, from the evidence we're hearing, the ANC is at the center of it. Yeah. The ANC has benefited from, criminal or crime. Well, it was actually the money that Matala paid was from a tender of the SAPS that he was granted of 360 million rand, and that has now been withdrawn. So it's very complicated, but it just shows the level of criminality that goes to the union buildings, if we are being honest here, because we've heard the president being mentioned with regards to the task team being disbanded. The head of the police came and said that he checked with the president, and the president was informed that Minister Mkhune has taken a decision that all the witnesses, I might add, Ludu, who've come here have said was irrational. This task team was effective. It was dealing with political killings. It was dealing with people who are politically connected, and that's why it's a problem. In fact, in one of the WhatsApp text messages that we heard this morning, this Brown Mkhoti says to Matlala, he sent in a text and say, this top team that came to your house and terrorized you is being disbanded. And then immediately he sent him proof. By that time, people who are involved in the task team didn't even know that they were being disbanded. That's how involved or connected he is to the minister or minister's office, because we've heard the minister's chief of staff is also involved in this. So
there's a lot.
Is quite deep.
Yeah. And for me, what's interesting now is whether the president will send somebody from the presidency or himself, if he will appear before this commission. He's done it before with the Zondo Commission, so let's wait and see.
Let's hope so. Because there's a lot of answers that we need here.
Most definitely. Well, Dimakatso, it's always a pleasure chatting to you, and thank you so much for joining us on Africa Update today. That's our reporter who is covering the Madlanga Commission, Dimakatso Leshoro, just unpacking what has unfolded today and yesterday, and just touching on a number of issues that have come forward. Well, it is that time of the day where we wrap up